Farmweek is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farmweek, if you need to appeal an adverse decision by the USDA, you may need Stephen Silverman.
In the food factor, portion control. Find out some practical ways to control how much you eat.
In Southern Gardening, spiller plants. These plants give your pots an extra zing.
In the markets this week, a dip in catfish processing firms up pondbank prices, while cotton prices are not expected to trade far from their present range in coming weeks.
In the feature segment today, New Tech on the Farm will take you from Australia to Iowa to see the kind of high technology that is headed to farm country.
These are swarms of little lightweight robots that work cooperatively to work out in the field.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
A comprehensive study shows no negative human health effects from genetically engineered crops.
Leighton, GMO opponents are calling the report biased, but the National Research Council report had some surprises that cut both for and against GMO supporters. It had some interesting observations on yields. The National Research Council is part of the National Academy of Sciences. The report looked at the impact of GMO crops since the 1980s. The NRC said there could be some small differences, but overall it could not find a dramatic increase in cancer. It did say, however, there was also not a dramatic increase in overall yields due to GMO crops. GMO opponents said the study is biased because Monsanto, DuPont, and other companies have contributed in the past to the National Academy of Sciences.
We all know tracking your daily calorie intake can be tough, and it's not always easy to measure out exact portion sizes. In this week's episode of The Food Factor, Natasha Haynes with Mississippi State University Extension gives us some ways to keep our portions under control.
Counting calories. Pre-packaged single-serve snacks like this can help keep you on track. But this same method can be used at home when preparing meals and snacks. Daily calorie recommendations differ from one person to the next. One universal truth, though, is that even the healthiest foods can go overboard on calories if your serving sizes are out of whack. A single serving of meat or fish should fit in the palm of your hand, whereas fruit or vegetable servings can be 2 handfuls. To guarantee proper portions, invest in reusable, pre-measured containers like these 1/4 cup and 1/2 cup bowls. Then take the value size bag of your favorite snack and divide into healthy serving size portions to keep you from overeating. Use the same approach with meals, going with smaller appetizer-sized dishes to trick your brain into seeing that full plate of food. Just think, smaller serving plates equal a smaller waistline. So to go a step further with portion control, try a calorie tracking app. It'll help you stay on the road to fitness. It's time to make healthy food a factor in your life.
Natasha says try not to skip meals. When you do finally eat, though, you're more likely to eat an extra-sized portion if you're starving.
Beginning today on Farm Week, we have part 1 of a 2-part interview with Stephen Silverman. Silverman is the director of the National Appeals Division of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. If the USDA makes a decision that's not in your favor, you can appeal it to the agency that just turned you down, or you can appeal it to the National Appeals Division. Silverman said the division was formed in the mid-1990s to provide an avenue of appeal that was separate from the USDA's Big 6 agencies. In part 1, Silverman gives us an overview of the National Appeals Division. Steve, give me a short description of the NAD. I know does a lot, but what is the National Appeals Division?
Well, the National Appeals Division is an independent agency of the United States Department of Agriculture. So it's a government agency, it's a small government agency, and it's very independent from the rest of USDA. We like to think of ourselves as a standalone entity. And what we do, Artis, is we give every farmer and rancher who files an appeal with us an opportunity to have their dispute with USDA heard and reviewed and determined independently and impartially by a judge.
And you do this for several, you hear appeals from several USDA agencies. As you said, it's not like you're a part of Farm Service Administration, agency, excuse me. So explain that.
Right. I call it the Big Six. There are 6 big USDA agencies that administer lots of programs for farmers and ranchers in the United States. And those Big 6 agencies, we have the opportunity to review the disputes that they have with farmers and ranchers. So I'll start with the one you just mentioned, FSA, the Farm Service Agency. They're probably the biggest agency that we handle. But then there are several others as well. There's the Natural Resources Conservation Service, also known as NRCS. And they're the agency that administers a lot of conservation programs that a lot of farmers sign up for. It's a great program, but there are disputes. And when there are those disputes, those appeals come to us. Then there's the Risk Management Agency, which many folks know as the Crop Insurance Agency, a big program of great growing importance for farming in America today. And then we handle the 3 rural development agencies, the biggest one being the Rural Housing Service, then there's also the Rural Business Cooperative Service, and finally the Rural Utilities Service. So any dispute that you have of a programmatic nature with those 6 agencies, you can appeal those disputes to us. We will give you a fair and impartial hearing.
Now, what makes the difference between I go to my FSA office and they tell me, no, Mr. Ford, we're going to do it this way. What makes the difference between whether I file an appeal directly with them or whether I come to the NAD?
Well, you have a choice usually, and sometimes you can do both. And normally what will happen is there will be a letter. You probably get it in the mail. If you're a farmer, you're a producer, you get a letter in the mail, and it frankly has bad news. It says you've been disqualified from this program, or you've been determined to be ineligible. We're sorry, you can't participate. And then at the end of that letter, it'll give you some options. And sometimes it'll say you can ask for reconsideration with the agency itself, with FSA. Or it'll say you may choose to mediate with FSA. And then it will say, or you may choose to file an appeal with the National Appeals Division. That's me, that's my agency. And many folks will skip directly to us because, quite honestly, they don't necessarily have a lot of faith that the agency that just turned them down is going to change their mind. And they know if they come to us, if they've heard of us, if they have experience with us, they know that we're going to take a truly fresh and independent look at the issue.
Well, now, before we started the interview here, you said that you had a quick example of just the sort of thing that NAD does.
Probably the most common kind of case or appeal that we get involves an eligibility issue, where a farmer or rancher tries to sign up for a program and they're determined to be ineligible. This happens all the time. So let's take, for example, any of the conservation programs that are administered by the Natural Resources Conservation Service, NRCS. A very common one is called the EQIP program, the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. Another one you may have heard of is the Conservation Stewardship Program, also known as CSP. So a farmer or rancher may wish to sign up for these programs. They pay good benefits if you get accepted into the program. And very oftentimes, those programs will have what's called an AGI, or Adjusted Gross Income Limit. And this is because these programs are designed by the USDA to help out smaller or intermediate-sized ranching and farming operations. They're really not for big corporate programs that are multi-million-dollar operations necessarily, and so they have a limit. Let's say $1 million, and if you're making more than $1 million in income, you are not eligible to participate. So quite often we have disputes arise over this because someone will sign up for the program, they're not really sure if they fall beneath or over that limit, so they'll take a chance, they'll apply to participate in the program, and maybe the agency will accept them. NRCS will say, fine, you're in, and they'll sign a contract with the farmer and the rancher, and begin the program. And what happens so often is that the landowner, the farmer, or the rancher will go ahead and comply with the contract, and they'll install and complete work that creates conservation benefits for the government and for the public. And they'll get paid by NRCS, but then maybe 3 years later, the United States will revisit this. They'll audit, and they'll take a look, and they'll say, wait a minute, you made over $1 million. You were over the AGI limit. And I just had a case like this week that I handled where I took a look at it, and sure enough, it was true that the farmer had, in fact, had an income that was greater than $1 million. And so the agency took action against him and disqualified him from the program and said, we want our money back. But we exercised our equitable relief authorities, which I'd like to chat about with you at some point, and said, yes, it's true that that farmer was over the $1 million AGI limit, but fairness in this case warrants that he should get some relief. And we call that equitable relief. Even though he broke the rule, he didn't do it intentionally, and there were good reasons to let him keep that money. And so I make decisions like that every day. I'm not trying to suggest that every appellant, every farmer or rancher who files an appeal will win, but that's the kind of case that I see an awful lot of.
Now, if you want to learn more about the National Appeals Division of the USDA, you can go to their website, www.nad.usda.gov. Next week, in part 2 of Silverman's interview, we'll explain the appeals process is free and it takes place within 45 days at a location in your area. Are you looking for a plant that will serve as a ground cover or spill out over the edge of your hanging baskets? In this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman shows us some underappreciated plants, the spillers.
Colorful flowers always get the most attention in the landscape or combination containers. But today I'd like to share some of the unsung heroes of the landscape, the spillers. Spillers are those plants that have sprawling growth. Here are a few good choices. Creeping Jenny, known botanically as Lysomachia, is a little ground cover with sprawling growth. This is an accurately named selection called Goldilocks due to its bright golden yellow leaves. This is great in a container paired with dark leaf companions. Walkabout Sunset Lysomachia is a different form of Creeping Jenny that forms a mat of oval, yellow variegated foliage. During the summer, the sprawling stems are filled with cup-shaped yellow flowers with orange bases. A spiller plant that I think has a touch of elegance is White Licorice Plant with its silvery, felt-like pubescent foliage. This is a tender perennial that is grown as an annual for use in combination containers. True to its name, on a hot summer day, you may notice the licorice aroma. Another great choice for a spiller is Swedish ivy, Plectranthus variegata. The scalloped green foliage is very attractive with the white edges and makes this a great plant for the container or landscape. A great feature of these spiller plants is they'll grow in the light shade all the way to the full sun. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman, and I'll see you next time on Southern Gardening.
Now, Leighton Gary says that spiller plants are important because they soften the edges of landscape beds and pots, and then they also make a colorful skirt. In our feature segment today, see some of the new kinds of technology coming to farm country. Hydrogen may power your tractor, while robots will spray crops and milk cows. Time now for the markets with Leighton. You say we've had a little dip in catfish processing?
That's right, Artist, but this drop does seem to have helped pond bank fish prices, so that's a good thing. Meanwhile, it looks like that the rains have given some volatility to the cotton market. Also ahead this week, the nation's cattle herd gets larger, but demand keeps up. U.S. pork exports to China continue to increase, and dramatically better soybean prices entice growers to plant more. We do lead this edition of the markets with Monday's government snapshot of the U.S. farm-raised catfish industry. This new report reflects the market during the month of April. U.S. producers received a pond bank price of $1.17 per pound, and that is for premium size live fish during April. That is an increase of 2 cents from the March figure and is up 4 cents per pound from the same time 1 year ago. Now, farm sales totaled 22.5 million pounds round weight. That reflects a drop of 13% from April 2015. And processor sales were heading the other direction last month, increasing over 5.5%. This according to Dr. Terry Hansen at Auburn University. In the beef sector, many analysts aren't falling in line with what the fundamentals of the cattle market are indicating. Trader Darren Newsom of DTN is one of those who believe cattle prices are going higher. Here's how he sizes up the current situation.
I know but it's like everything else. I know the fundamentals are bearish. I know the herd size is getting larger. Demand is keeping up at this point. We've got very impressive charts, impressive monthly chart. After we posted a new April low, we were able to bounce back. Looks like we've got a 2-month reversal going on in here. The feeders look pretty good, actually. Its initial target's up around 155 on the August contract. So, you know, may have a little bit, it may lag live cattle a little bit as far as activity goes, but I think we're going to go ahead and see the feeder cattle push higher as well.
There is also some optimism in the hog sector of the livestock market. Efforts to exports to China have been a big help as far as the pork trade. However, a lot is riding on whether beef prices hold up. This, according to analyst Ted Seifert. He bantered with Market to Market's Mike Pearson about the pork trade.
I am optimistic, cautiously optimistic, that we're going to go try those highs again and maybe see what we can do with that. If we can get over it, it would really help to see some bigger exports again going to China. That would really get us excited, and that would certainly get your speculative trader excited again.
But if we don't, make some sales.
If we don't, that's, you know, we're looking at a place to be making some sales. The bigger concern that I have in hogs is if beef prices are coming down, you know, domestically and abroad, do we lose some demand there?
Well, let's check out our trivia quiz for this week. It is a livestock-related question, and here's what it looks like. What country is the leading producer of sheepskin and lambskin? Is the answer New Zealand, Australia, the United States, or China? Stay with us and we'll give you the answer.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar and the rest of the markets. Leighton Spence says many farmers are thinking about switching to soybeans while the reports are bearish for cotton. In the feature segment today, new tech on the farm. See how robots and hydrogen could be in your future.
There are some moments in life where everything seems to be just right. Time slows down, and memories are made that will last a lifetime. That is, unless you've got fire ants. Then those memories can quickly turn into nightmares. It's time to bite back, Mississippi. Learn how to make your yard a safe place to play again at msucares.com/biteback.
Now, before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. The annual Beaumont Horticulture Field Day at the Horticulture Unit of Mississippi State University will be held Thursday, June 2nd. The unit is located north of Beaumont on Highway 15. There's no registration fee. You can register and get a free breakfast biscuit at 7:30 a.m. The field day starts at 8 a.m. The Mid-South Green Industry Conference will be held Tuesday and Wednesday, June 7th and 8th. The location is the Boss Conference Center on Mississippi State University campus in Starkville. New varieties and new products is the theme of the conference this year. Marketing and merchandising outside the box is also on the agenda. Tours of the MSU Trial Gardens will take place on Wednesday morning. Register before June 1st and the cost is $100. It goes up $15 after that. There are discounts for multiple registrations from the same company. Go to our website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
It is the second half of the markets here on Farm Week, and we move into the row crops. Market developments may have some producers pondering now whether to switch more acres to soybeans this year. Purdue ag economist Chris Hurt says that since March 1st, bean prices have gone up nearly $2 per bushel. Now, by comparison, Hurt says corn has only risen by about 15 cents per bushel in that same length of time. Hurt tells Brownfield Ag News this is one of the largest incentives he has ever seen for growers to plant more soybeans. And the May supply-demand numbers from the USDA are being described as bearish as far as the cotton market is concerned. This even though world cotton stocks are declining, according to the figures. Analyst Lewis Rose tells agfacts.com there's no real reason to expect December futures to trade very far from the 60 to 63 cent level in the coming weeks. And we go back to the trivia quiz as we wrap things up in the markets for this week. The correct answer is D. China is the world's leading producer of sheepskin and lambskin.
Farm country isn't the first place that most people associate with high-tech computers. Computer-controlled chicken houses and computer-controlled catfish ponds have actually been around for a while in Mississippi. One day, robots will perform many of the farm tasks done today by humans. In today's feature segment, we travel from Australia to Iowa to see some of the high-tech that's under development in farm country. Robots are already milking cows, and cheaper robots are under development for field work.
An Australian company hopes to push robotic farming technology forward by building field robots that are simpler than their predecessors. The group of robots will work together to complete tasks.
These are swarms of little lightweight robots that work cooperatively to work out in the field.
Swarm Farm founding director Andrew Bate reports agricultural robots had been trending towards more complexity, making them expensive and difficult to operate.
They'd become that heavy and that complicated. I started to sort of realise that we're going backwards. Every new model that came out was bigger than the last.
By designing a pack of simple, inexpensive robots intended to work together, productivity goes up as operational costs go down. While the robots perform simple tasks like spraying weeds, farmers are free to complete higher value work.
Especially with the skills shortage that's coming through, you can, instead of employing someone briefly, you can, in the busy times, you can just use these robots.
Reducing the need for human labor has driven the development of robotic milkers for dairy operations. This project, on the Australian island state of Tasmania, has converted a grass-fed dairy herd to all robotic milking. As an early adopter, the transition has been difficult.
I think I was about the 8th or 9th farm in Australia and probably only the 3rd or 4th pasture-based one in Australia, which probably made it the 10th or something in the world to be pasture-based system, so there was no information at all about that.
That small body of knowledge has slowed the adoption of automated milking in Australia. This farm is now acting as a model for others.
So we thought that having a focused farm where farmers can come a couple of times as a field day will be very beneficial.
The dairy's higher electricity costs have been offset by reduced costs for labor, allowing the operation to slowly expand. On the other side of the globe, 2 American engineers are changing traditional thinking and have built a facility to produce hydrogen and ammonia to replace diesel fuel on an Iowa farm. Inventor Jay Smucker has leveraged 50 years as an engineer at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory on the attempt to find a green fuel to use on the farm.
It started off a memorial to my dad, and then I just wanted to do something that hadn't been done before.
The first iteration of the project collected hydrogen through electrolysis, which breaks apart the hydrogen and oxygen atoms present in water. The hydrogen is collected for fuel, and the oxygen is released. The system currently generates roughly 10% of the fuel the farm would need to operate solely on hydrogen year-round. The project later moved on to producing ammonia, which is more difficult technically, but allows the storage of more energy in the same space.
The tractor runs, the engine runs on hydrogen by itself, or it runs on basically 20% hydrogen and 80% ammonia. When we're running a combination fuel, we actually have about 30% more power than just running hydrogen.
While the entire system was built with off-the-shelf parts, it is far from cost-effective at this scale. But the concept has now been proven. The system is well suited to a farm environment, as it generates fuel year-round, while the farm needs fuel in short, intense bursts around planting and harvest. A larger scaled system could take advantage of off-peak renewable energy to produce fuel at very low cost, helping to defray the large startup capital expense. Whether using hydrogen or ammonia, the tractor's exhaust is pure water, nothing else.
There is no carbon footprint. It's totally green. This is a world-changing project. How much better can it be than this?
For Market to Market, I'm Peter Tubbs.
You can watch this story again on high tech and new tech in farm country on our Farm Week website. That's farmweek.msucares.com. We'll also have a link to the Market to Market website where you can see the original story as well as read the script. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, we'll have part 2 of our interview with Stephen Silverman, the director of the USDA's National Appeals Division. If a USDA decision goes against you, you might can appeal it to him.
Silverman will talk about some of the details of appeals in his agency. These appeals are free and they take place in your area.
In the Food Factor, see why you should never allow your dog to eat chocolate.
And in Southern Gardening next week, salvia. It's colorful and it lasts all summer in our southern heat.
For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week.